Hello, guys. My name is Moises, and I'm the media manager, artist relations here at Singular Sound. And I'm so happy to present to you this new video series of interviews with incredible guests. So, my marketing team and I, big shout out to Anthony Sostre, our marketing director, Dennis, and Travis. We had this idea of discussing different topics within the music industry. So, hopefully, you can take out some knowledge from these discussions, and also you can learn more about our guest. So, some of the topics that we're going to be talking about are about producing, recording, and practicing tips from our guest, experiences as working musicians, and gear talk discussion about the trending gear that is available for musicians right now. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So before we start, I want to give a big shout out to Camilo Velandia for letting me use his incredible jam using the BeatBuddy in the beginning of the video and as a background music. He's an incredible player from South Florida, so just make sure to check him out. So just to give you a little bit more details about who I am a drummer and I'm a video producer here in South Florida. I have been with the team for almost 4 years. I joined the team with David and Ellie Packhouse, the founders of this company, and it has been an incredible journey since the beginning of the BeatBuddy and now the Aeros Loop Studio. So our first guest, we're happy to have the incredible George Price. So for all of you that don't know George, he's an incredible professional bassist and Chapman stick player from London. He does all type of session work for several recording studios in London. He plays with several projects right now. And he also performs using loops, using the Aeros and the BeatBuddy together. He's a long time BeatBuddy user, and all of his looping videos are so inspiring. I totally encourage you to take a look at his account and at his social media account so you can take a look at a lot of his jams. So let's bring George into the conversation. How are you,
All
my
good.
brother? Thank you so much for your time, and I know that we've been talking about this meeting for the past few weeks. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so happy to have you here, man. So
Oh man.
so just to kind of give a little bit introduction about who you are. Uh, I mentioned that you are a long time BeatBuddy user. So tell us about what are you doing right now? Just give us a little bit of your background.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for having me. First things first. I mean, yeah. I went to uni, graduated in 2016, and I did a course, a music course in bass. It was a degree course, and obviously, student life is hard, and to support that, it was sort of an idea to go out and busk and see if um, any money could be made for living costs, and never really anticipated it being, I suppose, the day job. But went out busking and found out that it was pretty great. I was earning, and I had money. I built some money up and saved, and I bought some gear. Um, so I ended up uh, buying a BeatBuddy, which kind of changed my busking life. And I know that I don't know how it sounds. To me, it's wicked, but to have a tool that is like, it can just pique your inspiration and your ideas on the spot, and that was what I really liked about the BeatBuddy. It's a wicked thing. And before that, I was using backing tracks that I'd made and drum tracks, and like, there's only so much you can do with the same drum beat every now and then. It's all your music's gonna be the same. So anyway, yeah. So my busking was cool, and I had this whole setup, and I had the BeatBuddy, which was a really nice addition. And it's just sort of helped. And this whole busking thing, I never really thought that it would be like a regular thing, but it's something that's really helped me get through living in London. Costs here are expensive,
I
and
feel you, man.
yeah, it's hard. But when I was at uni and when I was just finishing uni, the gigs were coming in, but I wasn't necessarily making waves in like the session world at the time. Not that I'm making those huge waves now, but I think I'm sort of fairly known as a bass player and definitely a stick player as a busker. But yeah, it's just kind of been the day job for a long time now. I've probably been busking for like 5-6 years.
Interesting. I think I remember, as I mentioned on the beginning of the video, I mentioned that it's been 4 years that I've been with the company, and I think you were the first guys that I kind of noticed on social media, on Instagram, that you were posting a lot of videos,
Right.
busking with the BeatBuddy, and really got my attention. Not
Uh-huh.
only because of your ability really to groove so hard, with the BeatBuddy, but also I know that you are, you play the Chapman stick, which
Yeah.
it is pretty impressive to kind of create the whole a cool little like just jam just with with that instrument. So talk to us a little bit about how you got started with playing with the Chapman stick.
Do you know what? It's an interesting story. So I came to London for my audition, and this is like 2013, I think. And I was walking through the tube, and there was a guy. His name's Bucky, and he was playing a Chapman stick, but they come in all
Nice.
different shapes and sizes. But he was playing an alto stick, and I was with my dad at the time, and it blew, like it just blew both our minds. And I'd never really, I don't think I'd ever seen anything quite like it. I started on guitar and I went to bass, and bass is cool, but then I saw this guy and he's playing this alto stick. I think it's got like 10 strings.
Wow.
I was just like, damn. So, like mine was blown. And then, you get on Google or whatever and you search and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm nobody.
Now, yeah. Well, these things are about, and there's a couple of companies out there that do extended range guitars and stuff like that. But the main one, I suppose, is like NS Design. If you want to go down that route, I know that Chapman Stick, they have their own websites and stuff like that and their own design. But NS made this thing that was perhaps more accessible to musicians who didn't want to go out and have their mind completely blown by like a 10-string or a 12-string guitar.
Yeah.
So anyway, funny story with my Chapman stick here is that with custom guitars and as you know, with custom at anything, you have to wait. There's a waiting list or there's like there's some sort of list that you have to be on, and it's a long time to wait. But there was a cancelled order that had been ordered, and obviously, like it says, cancelled. And they were like, "Well, this person's not having it. What do you think?" And then you and ahh it, and you pull the trigger. And anyway, this thing turns up. Now, it's an interesting looking thing. It looks a bit like a cricket bat with, I don't know, with just so many strings. There's actually 8 on here.
Wow.
And it's just nuts. There's not much to it. It's 2 bits of wood, and that's what it is. But so anyway, this thing arrived, and there's so many different ways of stringing it. But I think the main one, especially for someone who is so familiar with bass, is to treat it like an extended bass, which is what I did. And I just remember like picking it up. And firstly, it feels so bizarre. It doesn't feel like anything that I've ever played before. And it was just a case of sitting down and practicing, and it's kind of self-taught, but you still go into the instrument knowing what you're going to play if you've played bass or something beforehand, because the rules still apply.
Absolutely.
There's just a few more strings to perhaps get your head around. So if I was going to go busking, I'd done it with guitars. I've never really done it with a bass, but again, like I think as a listener, I'm not quite sure busking 2 hours with a bass is going to make people happy.
Absolutely. I mean,
I know some people do that, right? But you know, I think there's only so much you can do with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So this came along, and it was like, have this and play this, and go around on the streets and see what happens.
it just creates such a cool sound. You know, I think it's just a different sound, and you make it sound really cool, man. So how can you describe the music that you create? How can you describe it?
I get this question a lot, you know, and I think it always comes down to perhaps what I've grown up with, and plus what I like to discover on my own. So I grew up with like artists and bands like Led Zeppelin and Dire Straits. So I definitely think there's more of a Dire Straits influence than a Led Zeppelin influence, especially on the sort of the guitar tones, because it's got similar pickups to a Telly, so it kind of sounds like the lead stuff that Dire Straits has in it. And then as my music discovery went on, I love listening to James Brown, so I try and incorporate funky bass lines in there. Nice. I think a lot of it is for my own entertainment as well, but definitely to like watch people. You know, some people do the funny walk when they hear a cool bass line down the river or wherever it is, and it's just so funny watching these people, I don't know, dance to music they've never heard.
Absolutely,
and then
man.
I think, yeah,
I guess,
and then I think there's go on.
I guess just to have just something to show to the people so that they can dance. You know, I think a groovy bass line with just a very kind of pocket drum set groove.
That's right.
That's what it's all about. I mean, in my opinion, that's what I do with my band. That's kind of like I just been doing that for several years now, and that's the genre that I love to play. You know, so I'm with you on that.
I mean, there's definitely a Pink Floyd influence in there as well. Now, I'm not necessarily mad into them, but the stuff that I play, a lot of people come up and say, "Oh, that sounds a bit like Pink Floyd," which is a nice comparison to have. And there's also another band which I kind of get, but it's a band that I've never really heard of, and they're called the Osric Tentacles.
Oh, I never heard of them.
I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I have not.
But it's weird, and I can see why some people would relate to what I play. I don't know. It's a mixture of everything. I love ambient music. I love reggae. And I love funk and anything sort of in between. But also a lot of what I play is kind of ideas from what I'm listening to at the time of. I don't know, really. It's just kind of everything jumbled into one big thing, and it just translates to whatever comes out of the fingers, and hopefully it sounds good. I don't know, you know.
Absolutely, man. Definitely, you got the groove. That's how, you know, how they say. So, you know, everybody, you know, as musicians, we've just been struggling this whole thing during the pandemic. So what keeps you inspired during the pandemic, George?
Well, that's a tricky question. I suppose with being at home quite a lot, I didn't spend all my life on like social media, but you see a lot of social media content, and I there was definitely a lot more during, or there definitely is a lot more now, but there was definitely a lot during the pandemic. You know, there's lots of live streams and stuff like that, and I think a lot of it was to keep people busy. So I took a lot of my inspiration from what other people were doing, I suppose. Like, there's loads of instructional videos and what people are working on and what ideas they've got going, and it's like, well, I'll take some of those ideas and see if I can work them into my practice routine or my busking set. And I think, I don't know, I think I'm quite strange in the fact that I'm very, very optimistic, which is a good thing, and I didn't really feel demotivated as such. I felt disheartened that there were perhaps no gigs.
Yeah.
But I generally, you know, stayed safe and all that, but where permitting and stuff, I went out and played as much as I could, which I think is important for both me and the potential punters out there. So yeah, I think social media was a big inspiration. Keeping up with musician friends, because obviously they're all in the same boat as us. So I did quite a lot of collaborating with other people as well. You know, like, hey, I've got this cool heavy drum riff or heavy guitar riff or whatever. How would you feel about, I don't know, passing some time and playing along? So that was cool. And then also what I did in one of my bands, we did this thing called the Creek Cave session. So my band's called Backwards Creek. And to pass the time, because we couldn't see each other, we decided to record ourselves doing either popular covers or perhaps not so well-known covers, do like nice little production videos, release them for our entertainment, but for also the entertainment of whoever's watching on the internet. And I think that was what kept us all sort of on the same page, and you know, motivated as such. So yeah, friends and social media was a really good motivator.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it was a good opportunity for us musicians to kind of like just experiment different venues. You know, like social media has been a big part as well for me, and here and Singular Sound as well, just to kind of just promote or gear on how they can use the BeatBuddy. But even as you know, as a drummer, as a musician, just to kind of like put something out there, use that platform and get your name out there, and jam, collaborate. You know, with talented guys just like you, George. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for sure, and I feel that, you know, since the topic for this episode is, you know, how to start gigging again after COVID, I think this is a good, like during COVID, we just had to create content, right? I think it was just about generating content, putting your work out there, and create a good schedule of ideas, or, you know, I think the most crucial thing is to collaborate with people. You know, that's gonna get you to start gigging again. What's your take on that? What's your opinion on what would you say to people that wants to start gigging again, now that it kind of everything is getting back to normal?
Well, I think that, well, a you should most certainly get out and play as much as you can. I think one thing that is very apparent, and I didn't get it as much, but I think there was perhaps a lot of apprehension about going back out on stage and into that gigging environment because we've not done it for so long, which is fair enough. You know, it's quite daunting when your livelihood is perhaps stopped for a while. So I would say is, first of all, pick up the courage and just get out there, because the main thing is that you want to play, but the people going to the shows or the gigs or the rehearsals or whatever, they also want to play as well. So they're also in the same boat of this like uneasiness, apprehensiveness. But like once you've done, like I think I've done 2 shows at the moment, and some of them were exams, so I didn't feel the pressure as much. Maybe for the students it was, you know, terrifying. But you know, there was perhaps the first song of each gig was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. We're on stage. I'm gigging.
We're back.
What if it goes wrong? We're back, you know, the band is back together again and all that. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But I think that musicians now, I don't necessarily know if it's freedom. I'm not quite sure what to describe it as, but there's definitely a sense of relief if we're playing shows again. And it's just like that thing of like, go out and have fun and make the best of the situation, you know? And I think that is what I would encourage anyone, if they're just starting out or if they've been doing it for a long time, is just try and get in a room and play together, or try and get a gig and just play, because it really is the best thing. Like I did a gig, and at the end of the gig, I said to my girlfriend and I said to my parents that this is definitely something that I still want to do, even though I've had a year off. Which, you know, I think is cool.
Absolutely, man. I think another thing, I mean, I always try to do it all the time, is try to go and support artists. You know, if
Definitely.
another friend is playing this upcoming Tuesday, I try to go. You know, I try to go and support their show, because I know
100%.
we're a small community, and just going out there, you know, just showing your support and telling what you're doing right now. You know, like that's what I do all the time. Like, this is my band, this is what we're doing, we're playing down there, but just showing that support to the community. I think that's a crucial thing. A lot of guys, they just I don't know what's your take on this, but sometimes you just have to be humble and try to be just inclusive, and because we're on the same, we're doing the same artistic stuff, and we just need to support each other, period.
100%. Definitely. I mean, you know, if I don't know what to say, like if we go and they see us and they're like, yes, there's people in the audience, that means people want to see shows, then we want to feel the exact same thing when we do our gigs for people to turn up to our shows. So
absolutely,
and there was that thing, wasn't there, you know, when it was lockdown and everyone was inside and they were all doing live streams, and I'm pretty sure every post I saw was support music, buy singles, buy records. You know, that applies now probably more than ever, because the income is just about getting going. But for that to you know, have a steady rise, we need bums on seats or people on floors, you know, and people arriving and turning up to gigs. So yeah, supporting local,
and I mean
local music and local talent.
And I just mentioned something about going to shows, but just sharing stuff on Instagram, sharing stuff, you know, commenting on their, you know, on a release album from a friend, or, you know, from a singer, or from someone that you admire, or do you like what they're doing, just support, you know, send them a comment, say how, you know, listen to their music, and then you know, they're gonna know, like, oh, this guy is always, like, you know, super kind on listening to our stuff. Let's figure, who is this guy, let's check him out, you know. And then, you know,
I mean, it takes like 2 seconds to write a comment, right? Not that the 2 seconds doesn't have to be insincere, but it's so easy to show support and appreciation, especially if you like it. You know, you can literally just type, wow, that sounds great, or wow, I really like the look of that. And then it gives that person, I suppose, the reassurance that they're doing something right. You know, which is always cool, especially in the music world, because I think we're very proud as musicians, but we're also, I mean, I'm hypercritical of what I play.
I think every musician is like that. I mean, I consider myself super critical of my playing, and always like, oh my god, you know. But it's just, I guess it's just your nature. Go on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, but it's hypercritical, and if we show support, that whatever that person is working on, it doesn't have to be expert level or whatever. If it sounds good, and if the feel is right, or if there's something about the thing that you're listening to or watching that fills you with some sort of satisfaction, then it's probably important that they should know that you feel that way, so they have pride in what they do. I don't know. Just like that, really.
And you know, one of the things that I learned over the years, George, I don't know what's your take on this. It's like like some of the best shows has been like something went wrong, something was not working right, or something, like maybe a song wasn't like not that great that night, but the other song sounded amazing. So it's like there's always those shows that have something that is not always perfect. That's
it's that human element, isn't it? The human element of the shows that makes them so real. That's why people love live shows, because like on the internet, with all the lockdown videos, you know, I mean, when I was doing them, I had to do numerous takes to get something that I was happy with. But live, like if that goes wrong, that goes wrong.
Exactly. Which is the beauty of it. You know, that's why, you know, that's one of the things that I love about working with, you know, with David and Ellie, you know, here at Singular Sound, that is like it is a product that allows you to really just play live stuff. I love playing live stuff. There's nothing wrong with, you know, recording and producing and, you know, re-edit and overdubbing, you know, the whole post-production stuff. But when I see someone that creates everything live and with those little mistakes, but it makes it sound amazing, like, dude, that's just, it's just amazing for me. Like, you know, and it takes time, of course, practice, but it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I really just consider myself a fan
Yeah.
of something that is just made live, you know? So
That's the thing with the busking thing. Like, I know what I'm gonna play. You know, I go out there with stock ideas and stock chords and whatever. But there's still times. I think I went the other day. There was still times when it went wrong. You know, and there's notes in there that creep
I
up,
had
and
those
it's
times.
like, damn, I've played something wrong. But I think what busking made me realize is that once it's happened, unless you have a delay on, what happens, and that's it. You know, no one cares. You
Yeah, move
know,
on.
and I think that's, yeah. You just got to move on and play the best you can and make the next note count. So if you play a semitone out, like what you're one semitone away from the right note. I think that's what Victor Wooten said. You know, which is true, because you know it doesn't matter if it's a wrong note or a wrong bit, as long as you recover well and don't stop. That was one of the things, wasn't it, that they taught in school, that if you make a mistake, don't stop, just carry on. You know, get there, and it's all good. That's what counts.
Absolutely, man. So let's just move on to another question. I know that you mentioned that you had a band, a project that you were working on. Tell me a little bit more about this project.
Okay. Well, there's a few. I like to keep, I don't know, fingers in a few different pies and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got a band called Backwards Creek, and it was a country band, but it's kind of changing its sound a little bit. It was country southern rock, but now it's sort of stepping away from the countryside, still keeping a bit of the southern rock influence, but we seem to be going a little bit more like 90s, which is cool. You know,
Nice.
I'm all for that. There's like a 90s revival come in, and you know, that's a nice thing to be part of. So there's that, and we've got a couple of singles in the works. There's a single coming out hopefully soon. We've just released like a final mix or so we're making sure that we get all that sorted. And as you know, and it's probably even more drastic when releasing a product, because I mean a single is a product, but there is so much work
I
involved
know, man.
in the promotional campaign and like pictures and
Videos,
it's videos.
social
It's
media.
bonkers. It's mad. So that's what's happening there, and that's cool because it's something to look forward to, and it's like it's a really great piece of music. It's like rock and roll, country, kind of, yeah. I don't know how you would describe it really, but it's a nice bit of music. So there's that, and then there's a few other bands. I play in a completely different band, which is like neo soul,
Nice.
R&B kind of vibe. I would probably go down the like maybe route of like Jill Scott kind of thing. Again, totally different, but they got some gigs on the way, and they'll be wicked. And again, some more singles coming out with those. So yeah, just the single release campaigns, man.
Awesome.
There's so much planning. But yeah,
So
cool.
for sure,
Cool,
I'm
cool.
gonna list the links of the bands on the description, so
Yeah.
so the people can
Oh man, thank you.
watch and watch them and follow you for sure, my brother.
No, must remember as well. There's a girl I play for. She's called Emily Faye. She's very very country, and she's got a couple of shows coming up in I think it's August.
Nice.
But we haven't played full band for a long time, so that'll be really nice when we get back together. But yeah, I've been in her band for ages, so she definitely deserves a mention because she's great.
Awesome. Will do. So let's so George, I have a question for you. So since I was just looking into the busking performances as well as a busker musician as you are, so for how long have you been doing this whole type of performances in the streets? Tell me a little bit more about it, and if you can just kind
A
of
long time.
like tell me on how you prepare your day. What is the type of gear that you usually take for these performances? Yeah, just talk to me a little bit about this
All right.
type of performances.
Cool. So it actually goes back like years, and I feel like that makes me sound really old. But so in college, this is when I was probably like 17, 18. One of the course modules was to put playing in public into practice. And I'd never been busking at that time, but a great thing to do. I Googled it and all that, and I seen people doing busking on the streets, and I thought, you know what? I've got to give this a go. So at the time, I went out with an acoustic guitar. I'm not really much of a singer particularly, but I went out and I was singing like old school Jason Mraz songs and stuff like that in Preston town centre of all places. So that was cool, and I put my case out, and I didn't really expect to receive anything because I don't necessarily know my heart was in it because it was for a college project. But anyway, I did quite well. Considering I wasn't necessarily sure what was going on. And I thought, I looked at the cash in the bag and I thought, okay, well, this is cool. Is there any way that this can be a regular thing? So there was a couple of times where I went out again with an acoustic guitar, and that was cool. And then college finished, had some college exams or whatever, and then came to London and started my degree, and that was when I saw the guy with the Chapman stick on my audition day. I was like, right, there's got to be a way that I can make busking fun for me, but fun for everyone else. And I'm not sure the acoustic guitar is quite cutting it for me, considering I play bass. So I looked into a couple of options. And at the time, like I say, I found the stick, got it, sat down and practiced, and was like, right, I've really got to go out and I've just got to try. Never been busking in London before. I'm going to go out to Fulham Tube Station and see what goes on. And I remember packing up my case. Now, at the time, I was using the Phil Jones briefcase bass amplifier, which is, it's fairly substantial. It's not a tiny thing.
Right.
So I took it out and I parked myself outside Fulham Tube Station for about 6 hours.
Wow.
Okay, now I don't know what the rules are. I checked on a site called Busking London, and they say generally in Fulham, anywhere south of the river, you're probably all right to play. So that's exactly what I did.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So you had to had any type of like a permit to do this, or you just did it
I just did it because and it's a really interesting thing. In London, there's different boroughs where you can play and where you can't. So generally south of the river. So you're talking. If the viewers know London, or if anyone knows London, it's like Fulham, Kingston, Richmond, Croydon. That way, it's like south. You can play license free, no permit, nothing. You just got to obey like generally the code of conduct, which is you play for 2 hours, and then if someone's waiting, you pass your pitch over to whoever's waiting next. But where I go, I'm generally the only one, so it's cool. Result really. But if you go further into sort of central, like Westminster, Piccadilly, where the tourists congregate, you're not really allowed, and they have their own specific laws. And then if you go to like places like Camden, which is even further north, they have their own system. And if you don't have the license, or if you don't have the correct, I suppose, authorization to do so, they will literally take your gear off you.
Oh, wow.
So that's where we don't go. So we try and avoid sort of central and go towards places that are perhaps a bit more idyllic, like by the river is really great. So like Richmond Riverside or Kingston Town Centre, generally where they're a bit more cash friendly, I suppose. And a bit more willing, they're not necessarily orientated like by all their business, and they're not in a rush. So there's a lot of people like that in Richmond, and it's just a generally nice environment. So yeah, just park yourself there for a couple of hours, play the tunes, see how it goes. Good days and bad days. Generally good days down there, and call it quits and go home and try again the next day. And I remember yeah, and you asked me like, what do I take now, and how do I judge where to go? Well, I've got some awesome pedals, I have a bass multi-effects Zoom unit, and then I bought myself an Ampero one, which is an updated guitar pedal stompbox multi-effects thing. I've also got my BeatBuddy and my awesome Aeros as well, my Loop Studio, which has changed my life again. Can I just say that? Changed my busking life completely. And I've got a Phil Jones double 4 bass amp that's probably about 30 centimeters long, and my stick, and that's it. And it all goes in a Pelly case, and I just go. And generally, if I'm on it, I get there at about lunchtime. I feel like that's the best time. Just generally throughout the weeks, really, and throughout the days, because they get food, they go out, they've already got their wallets or their purses on them, they've already got cash. It's like the perfect time. And if the weather's really good, then that's what makes, hopefully it's like a really good day. It kind of depends, really. So yeah, that's what it is. All my gear in a case, and off we go on a bus and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is like you're constantly playing, you're constantly just challenging yourself on playing out there in front of people. I think that's one of the biggest things, man. I mean, that's awesome that you're doing that. You just keep, always improving every time, always, that's one of the things that I always try to do. I mean, just try to practice something. I mean, I'm a drummer, try to practice something on the pad or try to do some creative work, but definitely to have some type of a routine of playing as an artist, as a bassist, that's always something good to have, especially that, this early in your career. I know that you're younger than me, but I mean, you're in the right track, man. You sound amazing. So
thank you.
I think that's, that's a very important part of being better and to find gigs, because you're going to get better and people are going to notice you, they're going to see, oh, I seen George. I seen that guy over there looping. I seen his videos, and bam, I remember when I saw you on social media, I was like, oh, who's this guy? I'm like, oh my God. So you're doing the right thing, George, for sure, man.
Oh man, thank you.
So let me ask you now that that we're talking about busking. So what are the challenges? What are the one of the bigger challenges as a busker musician?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to the environment that you're in. So
Absolutely.
I'm lucky that I've got I didn't mention before, but I play on the London Underground system, so I have a license to play on the tubes, which is a completely different ball game from playing outside. Because if we go back to the environment comment, it's so noisy in some of these stations that you've got to contend with announcements, trains, footfall, people chatting, and it's very different than if you were playing by the river. But then by the river is also very different from playing on the main road. So a lot of it comes down to where you're playing. And I think another challenge would be, it's definitely people. There are some tricky people out there. And
what do you mean by
necessarily
tricky? What do you mean
I don't
by
necessarily
tricky?
like if it's perhaps the age of these people, they can be young or old, but some people just don't like what they hear.
Okay.
And if they don't like it, they will tell you. And then you got to deal with that, and then there's people, I mostly play original. I try and slip in a few like recognizable licks or hooks. So, I do a couple of songs that are like dead easy, like Dancing in the Moonlight by Top Loader. It's got a nice little melody line that I can replicate, and people know that. But some people come and you're like, yo, can you play covers? I need you to play this song by Jimi Hendrix or this song by this song, and that's cool. And I can play maybe a couple of select lines, but I don't know the full songs, so I don't want to embarrass myself. So you got to deal with these kind of people that kind of demand you play something. And I've had some people, and it's happened in all places I play, but they treat you like a bit of a puppet. They want you to play this song, and they won't leave until you play that song. And I don't like that.
Right there on their hands, right? Like, you better play it.
Yeah. And I've had people like, I will give you 10 quid if you play this song.
Wow.
I don't know it. So you can just, move aside. So yeah, I think people are, they make it interesting. And I think with the busking and going back to people as well is that it's a really great thing to like people watching. It's not a sport, right? But it could be if you were busking. There's so many interesting people out there that when you play, you see people in like loads of different walks of life, and they walk past you, and it's a really great thing. But yeah, environment and people, and I think another challenge is like busking is practice. I see it as practice, but it's something that you've always got to be on your toes about of what you play anyway. So you always have to know what you're playing because,
of course,
you're putting on a performance effectively. You're putting on a gig for yourself and for the people. So you need to sound as good as possible. So if I go out there, I don't drink, but for example, if I was hungover and I went busking, I just know that it would be a bad show. So a challenge, I think, is to like stay motivated and don't be put off if the return that day is naff, because sometimes it is. But it's like business, isn't it? Good days and bad days, So that's the way. That's what it is.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So do you think that it's easier to connect with people on the streets versus performing on a venue or a location?
Yeah, well, I think it is maybe for me as being the solo artist on the street. There's only one person to talk to, and I feel like I've got quite a friendly face, so I'm very approachable. I can speak to people, and if people stop me and talk to me about music, man, I'll just go on, and so that's fine. So
I'm like that too. If you can tell, if you like one of my bands, you will have a full conversation about that for an hour.
Yeah. So I think that I it's perhaps easier to communicate with people that way. And at gigs, it's kind of different, because being the bass player at gigs, especially on the session basis, on some gigs, like you do the gig and you go home, like no one knows who you are. So there's that kind of element as well, like the anonymity of everything, which is nice, especially if like the gig went down the pan and you played a really bad show. Like it's cool to go home and no one really know who you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like busking is a good way to speak to people and a good way to meet people. But it's also cool, like if you have signage, like your name, that's really good to have as well. Like if people don't pick up the courage to speak to you in person, they might speak to you on social media later on as well. So there's that.
Absolutely, man. So awesome, George. Let me ask you. So do you have any tips for anyone that doesn't know anything about busking, and maybe he or she is trying to try it out in the future? Do you have any tips for them?
Yes. What I would suggest is wherever you go, it's always a really good idea. So first things first, check out the place that you want to go to first. So perhaps a bit like a recon mission where you would go and scope out potential pitches, or where you think you would fit well, or I think a really good place to play is if you're going on a busy high street is to go outside shops that aren't open, or the ones that aren't open, or perhaps boarded up or whatever, because then you're not going to get in trouble by anybody. And another thing to check as well is the rules, local council rules, or any bylaws that need to be noted, because I came across this the other day. I went to a place called Hammersmith, which is fine. I go to Hammersmith quite a lot, and I've played a couple of markets there. But I went there on my own, and it turns out that after I finished my session, I Googled, can I play in Hammersmith? And apparently it's not allowed.
Oh, wow.
So, I could have got done. Thankfully I didn't, it's fine. But these are the things you got to check. And because local councils always change the rules, you've always got to be on your toes about that. So, yeah, go and check out the place, check out the local rules, and I think be brave enough to do it, because it's definitely something that can sustain your income and if it goes well, then make it steady. But yeah, just be mindful, I suppose, of the people and the environment you're playing in. Because if you've never been there before, then people don't know you, which is fine. That's cool, because people don't know me. But you've also got to be able to judge situations quickly as well. And I think some of those situations, especially with perhaps drunk people, they're really difficult to navigate, because you're not quite sure how drunk people react. Thankfully, I've had very generous drunk people, but
there's always those.
Some of them are tricky. Yeah, right. But some of them are perhaps a little bit more difficult, and you've also got to watch out for perhaps like local police. But generally, like if you look at the rules, you should be all right. So that was what I would recommend. Go and check it out. Check out the rules on the internet or the council office, and just be aware of like the environment and the atmosphere, and be volume aware as well. They always don't like it when you're really, really loud and you're shooting it into shop windows. They hate that. So if you can sort of direct your sound, I feel like directing your sound up is quite handy, because it goes above the shops. That's what I do. I place my amplifier on a little. The BeatBuddy came with a little foam thing that goes over to protect the knobs on the screen, and it's just the right height to make my amplifier that much off the ground.
Interesting.
And it doesn't shoot into shops. So yeah, on the next orders of BeatBuddy, don't take that out, because people will use that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
So let's talk about a little bit about your setup. I know that you kind of went really quick on how to use the BeatBuddy and the Aeros together, but how do you? Yeah. I know that you have the pedals connected right now, so can you kind of just show us a little bit how you have them all set up, and maybe you can kind of test some of the lines in there if it's possible.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just think about the best way of doing this. I might have to pick up my camera and move it about a bit. So at the moment we've got, this is my bass. So my stick's stereo effectively. So I've got the left, which is the bass, and then there's a battery here, which I take on the road. And then there's my Ampero 1, which is like guitar sounds. It does all sorts, delays, as a multi-effects does. And then over here, we've got the BeatBuddy, and the Aeros is actually something that I was playing earlier in there that's still loaded in. And then there's the foot switch, and then this is an Ampero foot switch as well. And the way it works is that it all goes into an amplifier. And I've made this cool thing, and my dad made it. It converts the. Actually, no, it doesn't. It used to go into a little box, which converted it from a stereo signal into a mono signal. But now I use a Tascam recorder, which I can show you.
Like a multi-track.
It all goes into
multi-track Tascam.
Yeah,
nice.
So this is cool, because I can record my busking sessions and listen back, and if there's something really good, I'll go, damn,
awesome.
That's what I need to practice again, So yeah, that's how I do it. It all goes into my amplifier, and it's all like mega. I've got a click going on here, which is good. So yeah, I can just play a couple of lines. So I've got my stick here.
So yeah, one of the things that I love about the Aeros is, so you can just record the loops inside the SD card and just grab them and put them on your DAW, tweak them a little bit.
That's also
listen back. Oh, it's amazing. Just kind of like little backup. Of course, you can record them separately, like taking the line out into your Tascam or to your audio interface or whatever. But it's just having that SD card. It's just such a beautiful thing.
It's mega, and like I completely agree. When it's changed the busking life, and I'm not saying that the gear I had before wasn't cutting it, because it was, but what I was really struggling with was changing key, and having effectively 2 or more parts. And the way I used to do it was I would lay down a chord. So, for example, if there's a nice chord here, and all my songs would just be like on 1 or 2 chords. And then I would change the tonality and the key center with my root notes in my bass. But now, because I have a loop station that does the 2x2 mode or 6x6, I can have like long songs that just but that flow at the same time, because I can change key. You know, I can go from this from E, which is fine, and then I can take it to I would go from E minor to G minor. I would use an E flat on my chords, and it's just perfect, and it's almost seamless. And the advantage of the Aeros is it makes that happen. Whereas before I couldn't do it as well as I wanted to, effectively.
Right.
So
and then you can change the pattern on the BeatBuddy. You can change to a different like feel.
Yeah.
And then go back, and then you just kind of like just loop back those 3 sections.
Yeah.
And improvise in any of those sections. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Awesome.
The BeatBuddy with so I love the mellow packs that you guys made.
Big shout out to Goran Rista, which is our producer.
Yeah.
Our BeatBuddy producer content, and Goran is an amazing drummer and amazing producer. He's been putting out some of the most amazing drum samples.
Yeah, I always look forward to the emails that I get from Goran, because like I always know there's something special in there, and like these mellow packs. I'm a real big fan of like 16th note grooves, but they are so groovy, and the fact that there's like 3 parts in a song, it just takes. Hopefully, it takes my music to like next level of what I kind of hoped it would be, with the advantage of the 6x6 mode and the Aeros and the 3-part pans and all my tones that I have spent literally hours trying to make sound good. You know, it turns into like a proper performance, whereas before I was going out and making money and hoping that what I was playing over this one chord would sound good. But now I'm playing like long songs, and I sometimes find myself doing like half an hour, but I've changed key center like 5 times, but the drums haven't stopped. Which is cool, because it just goes on, you know. And when you're sitting by the river or whatever, and you're having a drink, and there's this music going on, there's no stops, which is sometimes nice to have space. It just carries on, and it's like this record playing in the background, which is a really nice thing if you like that kind of thing. So yeah.
I was actually talking to my marketing team about the. I just put like a really short video on how to change the drum sounds, and that's one of the most valuable things about the BeatBuddy. I think just having the same groove and just changing really just drum sounds and kind of experiment with that, it just gives you just a very really just hundreds of possibilities on how you can create an idea. You know, just change the drum sounds, and that's gonna set you in a different mood or. So absolutely, man.
Well, with the drum sounds as well, is that, for example, if you're just jamming one instrument, guitar, with the BeatBuddy or bass, or I'm fairly sure there are some sax players out there. There's all kinds of musicians with the BeatBuddy. You know, when you change that sound, it's obviously it's a different section, but it makes you play differently because the song is going somewhere. So the advantage of having the extra parts is like, oh damn. This is on a gig situation. Something's changed. I need to do something else, you know, and it really does improve like the pocket playing, which is, you know, what we're all after in the end, isn't it? Like the pocket, where everyone makes people dance. You know, it's cool. So yeah,
absolutely, man. Yeah. Awesome, George. Well, dude, thank you so much for having the time for to chat with me. We're trying this new video series of interviews with talented guys just like you. So. Thank you again. So if people wants to know more about you, so what's the best way so they can find out more about you?
So the best place is my website or Instagram. All my social media is at George Price Bass. So if you type it in one place, I should appear everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all georgepricebass.com. Yeah, that's really it. I'm probably
Absolutely.
hopefully everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and we always post some, like, all the videos that you do with the BeatBuddy. He actually, George did an amazing video, looping video with both units. I'm gonna leave the video in the description as well, so you guys can check it out. So
we did a great video too.
We did a great video too. If you guys want to check that out during the pandemic, me and George, we did a funk video. You know, we had a setup here in my little studio here. So thank you for that, George, as well. So thank you again, George, for joining me on this video, and I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Cool, man. Right. Thanks for having me. Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you guys for watching this video interview with George. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media at Singular Sound. We're going to be producing more videos like this with a very special guest. So once again, guys, thank you so much and take care.